Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg.
I'm Joel.
And we are here to wrap up the month of reading that was June and any other things as well. I think we have at least one TV show we want to talk about.
Yes.
We're doing this a little late. Apologies. We just had to go away for our 10th anniversary at the beginning of July. It was a hardship.
It was very hard, but
yeah.
Needed.
We talked about it a lot in a Friday Reads video. Was there anything we missed that you would want to add?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, so I'll link the Friday Reads down below if you want more details about that. But, and if you're unfamiliar, in June, our thing is to read queer books and queer authors and queer stories and all of that. So that is what we did in the month of June. It's kind of predictable.
Yeah, it is.
How was your reading month?
It wasn't as intense as I was hoping. I didn't do anything real heavy.
Yeah.
So I just did more fluff, just because I was traveling a little bit more and just made it work. But I enjoyed what I read. So
yeah, I had a good reading month. I actually managed to fit a lot more than I expected in. It was my biggest reading month of the year so far. I think I managed to read 10 books in both January and February, and I actually read 11 in June. I feel like I should qualify that because some of the books, there were like 2 graphic novels. There's at least 1 novella, so it helped, but it still counts. So that was it. So I have 11, and you have how many?
9.
9?
So
All right, so do you want me to go first?
Do it.
I will go first. My first book in the month of June was actually a carryover from May when we were reading A Room with a View for the E.M. Forster read-along. I will have information about that in the description box down below. Obviously, the selection for May was A Room with a View. We're going in order through his major books. And I didn't finish it in time, so I figured it's fine to carry that into the month of June because,
Yeah.
you know, E.M. Forster was a gay man. So I loved it. It was fantastic. I had read this before, and I really I loved it. I knew I was going to. It's one of my favorite of his books. And afterwards, I watched the movie. And I did not know when I watched the movie that Julian Sands, the actor, did I tell you this? He was missing for months. And they found his body just about a week or 2 ago. He was hiking and, yeah.
Really?
Right? Awful.
Oh, wow.
It's terrible. So I didn't know that when I rewatched the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, really awful. So there you go. Bad news about that. But the book was really great. It was a good way to kick off Pride Month. Right. So that was my first. What do you have?
I do kind of want to qualify, I think, why Pride Month I needed more fluff and easy. Because at work, I was working on a Pride History Month. Yes. And reading through Pride History and with today's, it got a little heavy for me. So yeah. I think that's why I stuck to a little bit lighter. So my first one was called To the Moon and Back by N.R. Walker. It was a little male-on-male romance, and it was actually kind of good, about a man who adopted his nephew, and as he adopted his nephew...
This one did sound really cute, sorry.
When he adopted his nephew, his husband left him. And so he hires a nanny, and of course he and the Manny... The Manny. Headed off right away. It's absolutely adorable, though. Yeah. Just because he understood that the father was really stressed and hard. The Manny came in and just took care of a lot of stuff, took care of them. But also they gave each other a kind of an adult life with each other too. And they really learned to like each other as the adult life. And then it kind of gets a little more saucy and they develop a relationship, and it's really cute. But it's a really, really good book.
Yeah, so I will have to catch up to that one because it sounded, when you were reading it, you were telling me about it, and it sounded adorable, so I'll have to catch up.
Okay, that's me.
All right, my next one was Different for Boys by Patrick Ness. This was something that I heard about recently, and I got a copy from the library, so I don't have it anymore. It was really short, like barely over 100 pages, and it's also heavily illustrated, and words in it are censored out. That's one of the gimmicks of it. I mean, I thought it was good. I didn't like it as much as I had kind of hoped. It felt a little bit slight to me. But I'm glad I read it, and it was a really quick read as well. So really I think I was done with it in an hour. So, yeah, that was my next one. What do you have?
Okay. My next one was The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley. He did The Guncle, which we had talked about on our Friday reads that we both loved so much.
And which we can say because it will have posted by now, showed up in my favorite reads of the year so far. Right. So I'll link that video down below.
And it was in my favorite last year.
Yes,
so.
it was.
But Stephen Rowley's The Celebrants was it's blurbed as the big chill. So these 5 friends, one of them had died, and so they kind of have a little memorial on for him. But then they said, okay, whenever somebody's down and really, really hitting rock bottom, you say the word and we'll all come together and we will do a memorial for you and to celebrate your life. And it was really good. I liked it, but it got a little on the weird side too. And I don't want to give a whole lot away for the book, but overall I enjoyed it really well, and it was a fun read.
Well,
yeah.
I'll probably try to catch up to it in the second half of the year, just because I love the Guncle.
Yeah, because when they're kind of hitting their rock bottom, they call everybody back in. Mm-hmm. There's some serious moments in it.
Yeah,
so.
That's good to know. All right, are we ready for my next one?
Yep. It
was Fire Island by Jack Parlett, which I was really intrigued by because it's a history of Fire Island, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I think this is a case where I wanted it to reckon a little bit more with issues of like access to Fire Island, like who gets to go there and spend time there, and it does. It's not as critical of it as I would have probably wanted, because as someone who grew up in the New York area, I don't know, I guess I ended up feeling a little bit more critical of Fire Island because there's a very specific type of person who goes there, who spends the summer there, and access is not great for anybody who doesn't really fit that mold. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. It does deal more with the people who spend time there than it does with the history of the place itself, but I guess that makes sense because the people are kind of what makes it the place that we know it as. But so I enjoyed it, but I felt like I wanted it to do something different from what it actually does, and maybe that's more my problem than the books. So there you go. What do you have?
My next one is Big Gay Wedding by Byron Lane. I really liked it. It was a fun book. It was a little on the fluffy side, but I was intrigued by it because it ended up in my top read of the year, top 10 read of the year. It was read by Noah Gavin, who is on The Good Doctor, and I wasn't sure about him reading the book, but he nailed it. He did an amazing job. Basically, a man goes back to his family farm, to his mother, who's very religious and not sure about him being gay, and wants to tell his mother, I'm getting married, but I want the wedding to be here on the farm. And it's just a really kind of a crazy time. There's some heavy stuff in there, but it just gets a little crazy, a little funny, but comes down to it, they put the wedding on the farm, and it's a beautiful wedding, and a lot of fun.
That is another one that I'll probably try to catch up to in the second part of the year, because you need fluffy things every once in a while.
But I would say do the audio, because it's actually really fun, because the characters are a little out there. So
okay, so I would do it that way. Ready for me?
Yep.
All right, my next one was Alice Austen Lived Here by Alex Gino, which is also going to show up on your list, spoiler, because I read it and immediately told Joel, you have to read this. And then I told my mother-in-law, your stepmother, you got to read this. And she read it as well. I loved it. I thought it was adorable. It factored into both of our top 10 of the year so far, right?
Yeah. We both put it in top 10, but we both struggled with it being in the top 10. But we came back and like, no, it earned it.
And the struggle was that it's middle grade, so it feels like I felt, at least, I don't want to speak for you, but I felt like, but because it's middle grade, it shouldn't be on my best. And at the end of the day, that's silly. It's a really good and enjoyable book, and I got a lot out of it, emotionally and intellectually, because it's also about queer history, and it is also about two non-binary middle schoolers learning about community and self-acceptance and things like that. And I really think that's a great message. You don't have to be a middle schooler to get a lot out of that book. So I loved it.
The message itself was really good. So I highly recommend it if you have any middle school kids. So
and even if you don't.
If you want to, it's great. It's a great historical book.
It is.
My next one was Gunner by M. Tasia. They write male romance novels, and it is like, I think, the 6th in a series. And the series for me is really fun. It's a group of Navy SEALs, all gay. It's like, what fantasy is this from? And they are doing a private eye investigation agency.
It does sound kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like a fun setup, yeah.
They're just, everybody loves each other, supports each other, and cares for each other. So all 6 couples live in the same house, and there's a straight woman with a little boy who is the secretary. And but every book has some sort of a conflict in it, and they do go from book to book. The conflict carries over. So when you do hit the end of one, it's a cliffhanger for the next.
I feel like that would annoy me.
It's a little. It's a little tough, but it's doable.
Yeah.
But it's a fun series. So I did Gunner.
Okay, nice. Ready for me?
Yep.
All right, my next one was A Minor Chorus by Billy Ray Belcourt. It's just a tiny little thing. You could dunk it in your coffee.
You could put it in your pocket.
That's right. And I really wanted to read this as soon as I heard about it. Somebody mentioned it in a comment a while back, and I apologize. I don't remember who. And I ordered a copy from Montana Book Company, and here it is. And I figured it was a good book to add for Pride Month because it is from a queer Native American perspective. What I didn't really know is that it's as much about the process of a Native man who is queer deciding to write a novel and thinking about what his novel is going to be and all the things that he wants to be in the novel and to be all of its themes. So it's a little bit experimental. It's very intellectual, and that is something that I enjoy all of the thought that went into it, but it is something that distances me from a book itself. And if it were a longer book, I probably would have struggled a lot, but it's a tiny little thing. So it was easy to get through. And I did enjoy it, not as much as I had originally been hoping that I would, but I'm really glad that I did get this perspective in during Pride Month. So that was my next one.
Nice.
What do you have?
Well, my next one was Alice Austen Lived Here by Alex Gino. And again, we loved it. We both loved it and recommend it highly. Yeah. So.
And where can people find the video where we talk about it in our top 10?
Down below.
Down below. He always says he wants to say that. So there we go.
So down below will be a video link of our top 10 and that we both enjoyed it.
Yeah. So there you go. It's fun, isn't it?
Yes.
It is. All right, and then my next one was Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kann, which I read, again, because I wanted an asexual perspective, and this is sort of an asexual YA romance. And I read one last year by Alice Oseman, and I had the same problem, which is that I didn't vibe with the characters, and the setup didn't really feel... It didn't work for me. And part of the problem is that I think the character in Let's Talk About Love is at a place in her life where she is not able to really stand up for herself and be confident. It's a book that would be 50 pages if the protagonist just directly addressed any of her problems. And she doesn't, so it ends up feeling way too long because, if you're at the point of your life where you've come to be able to, like, not that I'm the most assertive person in the world, I'm not. But, like, if you have come to a place where you can say, like, this is who I am, if you don't like it, I'm still going to be this way. It's hard to go back and be like, listen, little girl. So that made it a little difficult. But I also didn't really like the characters. So I continue to look for a good asexual book. I got a lot of good recommendations from the Friday Reads where I talked about it. So hopefully one of those will be a little bit more successful for me.
Thanks.
How about you?
My next one was Never Been Kissed by Timothy Janovsky. Timothy wrote You're a Mean One, Matthew Prince. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of in a series, but the characters are different. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed this one because the characters are really good, but I think you would kind of like it because it has to do a lot with film. So it's about this guy who wants the perfect kiss in a movie setting, like the perfect movie kiss. Mm-hmm. And so he's 22, he's in film school, and he did his thesis or a paper on a woman who lived in his town that was a big movie star. And the day that the movie was supposed to premiere, a lot of things went bad, and she went into hiding and became a recluse. And he read more into the movie than what it is. And it's a kind of a beautiful story on what the movie is, but it's also a great story of how this boy gets her to come out of hiding, falls in love with another guy, and but they're trying to save the theater as well, the drive-in theater, because there's not too many drive-in theaters left in this country.
No, so, I've never been to one.
Oh, they're fun.
I think they were still around when I was a kid.
Yeah,
not many, but I think they were still around. But I've never been to one.
Yeah, but the story was fun. The writing was good. It's fluffy, but it was a good book.
It sounds good.
Yeah, and kind of the ending was not predictable and made it much more enjoyable because it was a better ending than what you were expecting. So.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Very nice. Are ready for me?
Yep.
My next one was Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser and Robyn Smith. I got this from the library, so I don't have my copy anymore. It was really cute. I picked it up because Doris from Aldi Books talked about it on her channel. She was looking at graphic novels that she could read, and this one, it is about Black female friendship, but it takes the approach of the hair care rituals that they go through and how they kind of bond over them. And I thought that was really interesting. One of the characters it was advertised has a queer perspective. Turns out that's actually not a huge part of the book, but it's still fit for Pride Month. I enjoyed the book. I did think it was very superficial. Like, it hinted at a lot of the themes, but didn't really spend time diving into any of them. And someone commented to say that they feel their understanding is that it was part one of a series. But even as part one, it really didn't feel like it had any depth about the topics. Like, even if you read the volumes of Heartstopper, it goes much more in depth into what's going on and what the characters are feeling and things like that. This one even felt like it left some aspects dangling. So I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it, but it felt a little bit superficial to me. So what do you have next?
My next one was Paris Daillencourt is About to Crumble by Alexis Hall. Alexis Hall has written boyfriend material, husband material, and soon working on father material, which is a big series. And I loved them. So I thought Paris Daillencourt as in another series, and they're all baking and food competition.
Which sounds like our thing.
My thing.
Yeah.
I started the first one of the series, and I can't remember what it was. And of course, I was doing the audio, and I just could not do the narrator. It just was not working for me. So I did Paris Daillencourt, and the audio was much better. So I kind of got into it. I do support and believe in taking care of mental health illness. And I think it's a big subject that we kind of ignore and we need to do.
Yeah.
This book went over the top with the anxiety and mental health, for me, a bit too far, where I couldn't enjoy the book. And it was a food competition, and it was a little bit of Bake Off is how it was. But they went really heavy on the mental health issue, which, like I said, I support and needs to be there, but I couldn't enjoy the book. So I was a little disappointed in the book, where they think they could have toned it down and made their point really good.
Because there's definitely room. Like, I think the Charm Offensive is a great example of a book that is a romance, a queer romance, and really deals with pretty heavy mental health issues in a supportive way, but it doesn't make them the focal point. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
this was like out front. Mental health issues was the point, and we're going to do a little cooking in the background. And I'm sorry I don't like it, because I really, really wanted to. But Alexis Hall has done other books, the husband and boyfriend material, dealing with mental health issue and anxiety, and dealt with it much better. I think this one was a little too over the top for me and caused me not to enjoy it. So
it's fair. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My next one was Gordo by Jaime Cortez. This is something that I first heard about on I think it was the 2021 ALA notable books list, but they released that list in January or February of the following year. So I found out about it in like January of 2022. And I don't remember what their one sentence summary of this book was, but it made me immediately think I have to read that book. So It is set in a migrant workers camp in California in the 1970s, and it follows Gordo. The Gordo is his nickname. It's not his actual name. He is this kind of chubby kid who is probably gay, but it is not at the age where he can self-identify. And he's not growing up in a time where he really has access to self-identify as gay. So he never comes to like a coming out or anything like that. But it's very likely that he is gay. And he is still at a point where he doesn't like girls. And he is sort of much more interested in boys. But he doesn't associate that with being gay. And again, part of that is the time, part of that is his age. He really thinks that he's going to grow into liking girls. So these are sort of linked stories that follow him in the migrant worker camp. I really liked the book a lot. I think it did ultimately lack the sort of punch that would make it, and I mentioned this in the Friday Reads where I talked about it. Like, I think about Night of the Living Rez, and it never got to the point where it had that emotional punch that would make it feel like it's going to live in here forever. But I did really like it, and I thought it was an interesting book, and certainly worth your time. And it was a very quick read as well, and it is funny, so worth a read.
Nice.
How about you? Do you have any more?
Yeah, I have two more. One is In Flames by S.C. Wayne, male romance author who I love. I think Jackie Minimum turned me on to the Dr. Thornton series. And I absolutely love them. I cannot find the last two books, and it's killing me. But I did Up in Flames, which is a firefighter-oriented book.
Which is also his thing.
My thing.
Yeah.
By the same author. I was really getting into the book and enjoying it, and all of a sudden, the author used a term that upset me to no end. It's like, I shut the book, put it away, I'm not going to finish this book.
Yeah.
And
you actually reached out on social media just to tell them?
I did. Yeah. I reached out to the author and was like, I go, I love your books. They're great. But you use this term on this page in this book, and I shut the book. I can't finish it. And they actually responded back within an hour. And it's like, I agree with you. I no longer use that term in these books. And then I went back and looked at the copyright. It's like 2004.
13?
13?
I don't remember, but it was at least 10 years
13 or
ago.
14. 10 years plus.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. And I go, well, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for saying that. They say they no longer use that term. It is very inappropriate. But back then, there wasn't another way of stating it. And so I picked the book back up.
There was, but it was commonly used, and I think it's something people know better now.
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah. And so I picked the book up and finished it, and the book was still cute. I need that kind of a release book at night when I go to bed to kind of calm my thoughts down. Yeah. So a little male romance was good. I still love the author. I really admired that she did get back to me. And apologized and says, we don't use that anymore. A lot of other authors in this genre we talk, and we don't use that term anymore. And so it made me feel better. So I will still keep reading her books and love them. Yeah. So
there was a good resolution to that, which was nice.
But fun book.
Yeah. All right. My next one was Flamer by Mike Curato. And this, I would say, is an example of a graphic novel that really takes its time to not be superficial, and I'm not trying to slam Wash Day Diaries, but I would say this is the perfect example of one that has the heavy issues, but takes the time to really get into them and sort of grapple with them and what they mean, and leaves you feeling more as a result. So it's about a young boy who's about to enter high school in 1995, and is sort of at that cusp of he's realizing that he's gay. Other kids make fun of him for being gay. And camp is supposed to be an escape for him where he'll get away from that, but he gets to camp and they're at the right age where, it is an issue. People are making fun of him for seeming gay. So he's kind of in love with the boy he shares a bunk with, and he can't do anything about it, and is obviously afraid to tell the other guy. And because he is being made fun of, because he feels like he can't be himself and all this stuff, he is sort of flirting with suicidal ideation. So big trigger warnings for the book. And I really enjoyed it. This is one of the most banned books, which is why we bought it on Independent Bookstore Day from Montana Book Company. And I feel like the ostensible reason that people would say this is being banned is like language and that it does depict nudity, but it's depicting nudity in like communal showers. It's not a sexual thing at all. It's not sexualized at all. It's more to show how afraid he is to be himself. And I think that's something that we could both probably relate to growing up. It's like I was terrified of locker rooms and changing for gym class because you're so afraid of being around other boys in that circumstance and anything about it. So I feel like that's the fake complaint that people would probably use to get this book banned, but it's 100% because there's homosexual content, and that's just silly. Because it's about somebody trying to come to terms and accept themselves, and I thought it was really good. Yeah.
I'm reading it now, so you can see my little lavender bookmark.
Yes, it's an adorable bookmark, actually. Can we show it?
Yeah, we have a puzzle of this, too.
Yes, and it's a really cute jigsaw puzzle. So yeah, we did a jigsaw puzzle with this pattern and put it together, and now it is
a bookmark.
Joel's bookmark. Yeah. So that's mine. What is your last?
My last one, and I love this book, is Pageboy by Elliot Page.
And I need to catch up to it.
Yeah. We actually saw a quick documentary. It was like an interview.
I want to say it wasn't a 60 Minutes, I don't think, but it was some like ABC News special or something like that. And it was mostly quotes from the book, actually.
Yeah. So the book starts off really heavy because Elliot Page had a really, really rough go in Hollywood when he was Ellen Page. But now Elliot is going through, finding himself, figuring out what he's doing, and it really is an inspiring book. And I liked it a lot, and it ends up on a little happier note. But there's a lot about his career I did not know. So, really good book. I recommend it.
And I want to read it.
I think you'd read it. I did the audio. He read the audio, and just made it a lot more personable.
Yeah, I think that would be the way that I would do it, for sure. So I'll catch up to it. My next one was My Government Means to Kill Me by Rasheed Newson, and this is set in the 1980s. It has a black queer protagonist who comes from a moneyed family. At one point, he sort of jokingly refers to his family as like the Cosbys, because he has two professional black parents. And people will tend to make assumptions about him and who he is, and he actually comes from money. This isn't a situation where his parents found out that he was gay and disowned him. He's very much disowning his family instead. He's giving up his trust. He wants to make it on his own. He doesn't want anything to do with his family anymore. Part of that has to do with the trauma. And when I did my Friday reads, I didn't mention this, but he has a younger brother who had died, and part of it is a bit of trauma about that. But mostly he comes to New York. He gets to live as a gay man for the first time. Of course, there is a plague happening at the time. And over time, he becomes an activist. He gets involved in ACT UP. He works with a lesbian who is basically running a hospice for AIDS patients out of her apartment, which is incredibly emotional. So like trigger warning all over the place for that. It's also about, in this almost like Slumdog Millionaire way, it's about how his parents and their careers and the way they handled their children as parents because of their careers almost made him perfect as an activist, because his father was a lobbyist for a pharmaceutical company. His mother was a speechwriter and political strategist. So he sort of learned how to use situations to your own advantage, how to, like all of the perfect ways to be an activist. And in the way of historical fiction, it throws a lot of real life people in. Sometimes I think they could have used fictional versions of real people and it would have been a little bit better. For example, I kind of glossed over this in the Friday reads, but like Fred Trump comes into, he actually is in a scene of the book, and it 100% feels like you didn't have to put a Trump in this book. But I understand why he did it, and it makes sense. And overall, I really did like the book a lot and its message, so I would recommend it. It actually reads very quickly, and it's not as heavy as it sounds. I was really nervous that it was going to be a very heavy and depressing book, and it's not. It reads very easily and quickly, and there are footnotes. If you listen to the audio, you won't get the footnotes, and I think some of the footnotes provide a little bit of context that it's better to have, but still, if that audio is the best way for you to do it, because I think you're thinking of doing it on audio. Yeah, and so that's fine. It will not harm the experience, but you just won't get the footnotes. So that was my next one. And I think you're out of books, right?
I am out of books.
So do you want to use this opportunity to talk about season 2 of The Bear?
Sure.
Yeah. Which we're not done with. We have 2 more episodes, which we're probably going to watch tonight. We won't spoil anything, but we've really been enjoying it.
It's been a good season.
Yeah.
I think the 2 we watched last night was a little high energy and crazy. And then the next 2, I think what I'm enjoying about The Bear is, I don't think this is a spoiler, but because they are opening up a finer dining restaurant, they send some of their old staff or previous staff to do stages. And I loved doing stages when I was in pastry school.
So for anyone who doesn't know, because I learned what a stage is from you. So what is it?
A stage is where you go and work for free.
Yeah.
So
it's essentially an internship.
Internship, yeah. So when I was a pastry chef, I was a team of 1, but I had a stage who was actually a friend of mine, Laura.
Okay.
And Laura would stage with me, and they're free work, free help, but they want to learn how to bake or do things in a restaurant. So I really found that part of it really interesting.
Yeah. That is one of my favorite things about the second season, because in the first season, it's sort of like a greasy spoon sandwich shop, and the people there are like, they're chefs. One of the things in the first season is that this guy who has worked at like a 3 Michelin star restaurant inherits the restaurant from his brother, who has committed suicide, and he comes in and he knows fine dining, and he has an approach to dining that they're really not used to, because they're super casual. And like, one of the things in the first season is he refers to the kitchen staff as chef, and at first they're like, get out of here, what are you doing? And then at a certain point they learn to take pride in what they're doing, and it's because he believes in them. And that is actually one of my favorite things about the second season too, is that you see these people, like even one of the women who is most resistant to him coming in and making changes, she goes to take a chef class, and she does really well at it. And she takes such pride in herself that it becomes emotional. And so we've really been enjoying season 2 a lot.
I think that's why I'm enjoying this, because I've worked in some fine dining restaurants, and you do learn to take a lot of respect in what you're doing, and be respectful to the people you work with. And it's not a fast food joint. It's a really good place where you serve good food to good people.
Yeah. And it talks a lot about how it's something I've really also learned from you, which is that food is a form of love. And they don't talk about that per se. They more take it from the angle of hospitality, and how hospitals, it's about taking care of you and meeting your needs and your expectations and giving you a good experience. And I've really appreciated that. Jamie's dinner time is approaching, so she's a little mad at us.
I've been trying to pet her, so.
Yeah. So I only have one more book, so let's just do that really quickly. Mine was Only This Beautiful Moment by Abdi Nazemian, which I really enjoyed. It
I'm
shows
doing
up
next week.
Yeah. Because you're going to be on the road.
Yeah.
So he'll be listening to it next week. And it was one of my favorite reads of the year so far. So I'll link the video down below, and you can go there and find out more. But it's 3 generations of a family who are kind of going back and forth between the U.S. and Iran. It's really a beautiful book. So we should go feed Jamie. She's really mad at us.
It's almost 4:30.
Yeah, she's letting us know that it is her dinner time. So we will go feed Jamie. And that was our June.
Yeah, great June. Yeah. Fun reads.
Really looking forward to July.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll leave it at that. As always, thank you for your time. It is very much appreciated. Jamie is not appreciative, but that's fine. And we'll be back. Until next time, happy reading.
Bye.